practicals are on the week before finals, during the last week of class. And you know, they don't listen. If they would come to class regularly, then they might pick up on that, but they don't, or at least just pay attention. But no, they, you know, well, can I take it? No, you missed it. I don't allow them to do that.
11 a.m.
Damn, sorry, 11. Here we go. So today should be pretty short and sweet. Let's see. No, not that. This is what I want. There we go. Ta-da. Well, good morning, everybody. Today is Thursday, April 29th, 2021. And it is now, well, now it's a minute after 11 o'clock, and you guys are biology 1160, section 2. Remember, your exam, your final exam is next week. It's Thursday of next week. What time?
10:15.
At 10:15. Yeah. 10:15. Excuse me, 10:15 Thursday next week for 2 hours, 10:15 to 12:15. My courses, you know, you got to Zoom and do all that. But yeah, remember, it's not at 11, 10:15 next week. Always double check and make sure you know when your exams are and everything. And but today's the last day. We're going to finish up this material. It's not going to take long. I just have the female accessory glands and the breast, and that's it. I mean, we're probably just be done here in 10, 15 minutes or so, I think. So without further ado, and I guess when we're finished, if you have any questions or whatever, because I had some students asking about a review or whatever. Well, we're kind of beyond all that. So I guess the only chance what we would have to do it is today, like right now, after I finish this. So anyway, well, let's see. So the female accessory glands, remember that there were accessory glands in the male, and then of course they got accessory glands in the female too. And I said this before, like as far as the anatomy goes, with the male and female, remember early on development, they were indistinguishable, but basically the same features occur in both sexes, but they just kind of develop a little bit differently. So the glands, accessory glands, are basically the same thing. That, you know, whatever you got in the male, you got in the female, and vice versa. But they might be more useful in one sex or the other. So same kind of deal here. And so this first gland I mentioned is the greater vestibular gland, or Bartholin's glands. These little I got this stupid thing in my way. Hide this. That. Then I got to let somebody in and it's going to come back. All right. Down here, these two little guys are Bartholin's glands. These are homologous to the male's bulbourethral glands. Remember the bulbourethral glands with the small, and I call them like vestigial, insignificant glands in the male, the base of the penis. But these are in the female, and they're more significant. Here I define them as pea-sized glands on each side of the vaginal orifice. And they have short ducts that open into the vestibule or the lower vagina. Functionally, they keep the vagina moist and provide most of the lubrication for intercourse. So that they function like the Cowper's glands or the bulbourethral glands, but more significantly. And remember, we said that, well, what some books would say is that in males, those are the ones that kind of flush out the penile urethra. I don't know if any that's legit or not, but these are more significant, more functional. Now, those are greater vestibular glands. You think, well, greater, there's got to be like a lesser. And there is, well, in some people. And I don't even think your book refers to the lesser vestibular glands, or the eponym is Skene's glands, or they're also known as paraurethral glands because of where they're located. This is kind of like the female's vestigial gland that doesn't really exist in everybody, or at least it's not that significant. So here I tell you it's homologous to the prostate gland in the male because of where it is located. If you look at this illustration here, this is the vagina, and then above it's the urethra, and you can see basically the base of the bladder right there. And so this gland it's kind of diffuse and irregular around the urethra, so hence paraurethral gland. And that's the same position as in the prostate gland. But of course, in males, the prostate gland, of course, is quite functional and significant. But this thing is just kind of like a little vestige. And so here I'm going to say that they're irregular glands adjacent to the female urethra, opening in or near the external urethral orifice. Its function is obscured because this gland is absent from many females. So most girls don't have this gland, or at least not functional. However, when present, it's functional during female orgasm, often producing an ejaculate of mucus similar to that of the male prostate gland. Because you think of how the prostate gland functions, it functions during ejaculation. It actually contracts and forces the seminal fluid that is collected in the ejaculatory ducts out through the prostatic urethra, and then of course into the penile urethra. And so this is kind of like a version of that, but like I said, it's usually insignificant in females, but it's there. I mean, in textbooks, some textbooks anyway. All right, on to some secondary sex characteristics. Remember we talked about primary sex organs and secondary sex organs, and primary sex characteristics and secondary sex characteristics, and the secondary sex characteristics were those basically features of the anatomy that are bred into existence, so to speak, through what we call sexual selection. And then we talked about the presence of a female breast. You know, that's a female thing, you know, ordinarily, you know, naturally occurring anyway, because males of our species don't have perpetual breast. Remember, all mammals lactate one way or another, and it's usually the female that lactates and produces milk. There are some weird exceptions of some mammals where the males actually can lactate and breastfeed. Not in humans though. But the visible mammary glands are apparent only when they're lactating. But again, humans, they looks like they have functional mammary glands all the time. But that's just a secondary sex characteristic. Like this individual is more than likely not pregnant or nursing. She's just a girl, a female, posing to display her breast for an anatomy class. And but why are they there? Well, again, you know, these secondary sex characteristics are bred into existence through sexual selection. Anyway, the breast. So I define them as structurally, I guess. The breast is a mound of tissue overlying the pectoralis major muscle. Remember that muscle? It has two principal regions: the corpus, or the body, with a nipple at its apex, and an extension toward the armpit called the axillary tail. So basically, the portion that would be in the cup of a bra, the bottom portion right here. That's the corpus or the body, the bulk of the breast. But of clinical significance is the portion that kind of tapers off towards the armpit. That's the axillary tail or the axilla, because axilla, like is your armpit. So you may palpate up in here looking for axillary lymph nodes or something. Anyway, those are two main parts of the breast. The nipple, of course, you can see here's the nipple kind of sectioned open. It's surrounded by a colored circular zone, the areola. The areola, of course, that's the pigmented ring that surrounds the nipple. It has sparse hairs and areolar or Montgomery glands visible as small bumps on the areolar surface. These little white dots you see here. People asked me before if those are pimples or acne. I squeeze on them and stuff comes. Don't do that. don't squeeze on your Montgomery glands, your areola. But those glands, I think I go on to tell you, yeah. I say that they're intermediate kind of in development between sweat glands and mammary glands. And when a woman is nursing, their secretion, the secretions of the Montgomery glands minimize chapping and cracking of the areola. Because if you think of a little baby's mouth on there all the time, just sucking on the skin, it's gonna, can dry out the skin. So to supplement the sebaceous secretions, which ordinarily are there to condition your skin, to keep it from drying and cracking out, well, this kind of aids to that. And sometimes you have to supplement the areola glands on top of that if you're breastfeeding a lot. There's stuff you can put on the areola. Lanolin, you ever heard of that? Lanolin, it's actually made from like some kind of sheep extract and condition the breast. It tastes terrible. So before you drop your breast into the mouth of a feeding baby, you got to make sure you wipe that off really good. You'll see the expression on their face when they taste the lanolin. It tastes pretty bad. Anyway. There it is. There's that. I think I have some more to say about this. Yeah, internally, of course, you can look at the structure of it and you see all this glandular tissue in there. Internally, in non-lactating breast, it consists mostly of adipose and collagenous tissue and contains very little mammary glands. So the yellow you see in the background, it's all adipose. So mostly fat. So this is adipose connective tissue usually gives the breast its shape and structure in non-lactating. You will have ducts that occur, and there might be some mammary tissue, but all the ducts, if you look, they all kind of come together and they converge on the nipple. However, when a female is lactating, that when the mammary glands develop during pregnancy, it exhibits anywhere from 15 to 20 lobes. Each one of these units is a lobe, okay? And so, but they arrange radially around the nipple, so they go all the way around, okay? And the lobes have subunits, little lobules, whatever. But they're all connected to ducts and branchings. I remember it's a compound tubular alveolar gland. Remember that? But these are the lactiferous ducts that are converging again on the nipple. And right before they emerge from the nipple, you'll see expanded portions called lactiferous sinuses. So the expanded parts are lactiferous sinuses. And of course, lactiferous sinuses store milk between feedings, and they'll actually contract and help eject the milk through the nipple when nursing occurs. That's it. I told you about 10, 15 minutes. Here we are right now, 14 minutes into it. So that's it, the end. So we're done for the semester. You guys, let's see who's here. Well, there's only 7 people out there. And I have one person in here today. So of all 8 of you, does anybody have a question today? Because this is our last time. I'm not really going to have time to, I don't have office hours later today, and I don't have them tomorrow. And then next week I have office hours, but it's like right before the test. So, I don't know what you can do then, but I am available like that. So, but
Can you give us any tips on what to focus on from the past test?
you like the comprehensive portion?
Right.
Oh man, that's tough. Just review that, read over it, review it. But if I were you, I would concentrate primarily on these last 4 PowerPoints,
Okay.
because the comprehensive portion, like I said, I'm not going to select really hard questions. I selected questions that most everybody got right. That's kind of like my present to you. I haven't curved or did any extra credit or anything like that. So I'm forced to give you guys a comprehensive exam. So, that's how I do it. And so usually students do better on the comprehensive portion because, they knew that already, So really what I would tell you to do is study mostly, on this last bit of material because it's all new to you, But I'm not telling you to ignore the first 3 exams. You definitely need to go back and refresh, and go over that. But you really, put most of your time on the this last bit of material, these last 4 PowerPoints. And again, 1/4 of it is going to come from the reproductive system, and then 1/4 from the digestive system, and then 1/4 from the urinary system, and 1/4 from the respiratory system. Okay, so that's kind of how I divvy it up like that. And so, and then of the the reproductive system, what's a 1/4 of 50 is like 12.5 or something like that. So like 6 questions about the male or 5 or 6 questions from the female, kind of like that. So that's kind of how I do it. So I try to divide it up evenly, I've had classes where I've had like exams over, multi-chapters, and then the professor only asks questions from like 1 or 2 chapters, that really sucks. But I don't do that. I try to like divide it evenly, So anyway, any other questions?
Thank you.
Okay. Anything? Is there any part that you guys had trouble with or anything like that? No. Well, you can always email me. That it's just I don't really have time to set up Zoom meetings between now and next week. So, but emails I can get back, just whenever I have time. Hopefully within a few hours. You send me a question that's not too complicated. But anyway, well, good luck to you guys. And again, remember, it's next week, Thursday at 10:15. You got to Zoom and all that. Tune in to your Zoom meeting, 5 or 10 minutes early, before the exam starts, just to make sure you have good connections and everything. Because remember, you have to be able to Zoom to get credit for the exam. And I hope everybody does that. And I've had some issues with students that not being able to do that. Well, if you can't Zoom, I can't proctor, and if I can't proctor, I can't give you credit. So make sure it works. It's up to you. It's your responsibility. Don't tell me I can't, my computer crashed or a tree fell in my house or whatever. I don't want to say I don't care, but I don't care. You know, you gotta make it, you got to make it happen. And you will. So, okay, well, good luck, and y'all have a nice summer if I don't get to yak at you before I leave campus. So I will see you guys next week.